So let's get started. Thank you everyone for coming to the live stream. Quick little announcements. If you can attend the live streams, please do. Means a lot. And I'd also like to remind you guys to please turn on your notification bell on YouTube. If you don't turn it on, you won't see any notifications for my streams or any videos. So I'm currently seeing it as myself, but make sure that you guys go, and I think it's on the top right here somewhere beside my subscriber count, for the little notification bell. Please turn it off. I don't know why YouTube has, a lot of people have commented and said that theirs is off for no reason, that they might have accidentally done it. No, it wasn't accidental. A lot of people have been reporting this. I think YouTube just did this on purpose. And they've just been worried about trending and who pays them for trending and all of that. And it's just really, really sickening what's happening to YouTube. But if you want to help support these tiny little channels and undo what they did to the channels, please go and enable your notifications so that you can get notifications. And I can actually reach all of the subscribers here. I don't reach these subscribers anymore. I don't reach all of them. There's only a select, like a small percentage of them that I actually reach with my notifications. And viewer count has gone down, as well as like views on my videos, as well as members attending the live stream. So that's a big sign. So please make sure you're enabling that bell. Please let others know to enable the bell. Another thing I want to discuss is Patreon. So if you want to support me on Patreon, please do. I've been teaching for a very, very long time, since 2013, every Tuesday and Thursday. I have tons of videos on my channel, all for free, and I've never censored the knowledge or the quality of the knowledge I provide just because it's a free session. A lot of you have benefited from this channel, and if everybody joined as a watcher, it would just support the channel indefinitely. And I've never taken on any marketing or any sponsorships. So if you want to keep this channel independent, I don't want to have to edit my content or change my content or sell you products. I don't believe in just to stay afloat. And if you can support with $1 or $5 a month as a watcher or a pupil, or more if you're interested in educational material, please join on Patreon. You can just go to patreon.com/Istebrak and join there. If you haven't joined the Reddit, we've moved over from Google+. Google+ has shut down. We don't use Google+ anymore, the community there. We use Reddit, so it's nice. We've gone up to 1,000, but there were 10,000 members on Reddit, I think, or a little bit more. I forget. So please make sure that you guys are joining here if you want to be a part of the community, if you want to post your work. A lot of people have not moved over into Reddit yet, a lot, and Google Plus is done. So what happened to all the regulars who posted on Google Plus? Did you guys just are too scared of Reddit? It's not that hard to use it. It's really simple, and everyone has a Reddit account these days. So it's if you haven't been on Reddit or you've been avoiding it, now's the time to get on. I didn't use it for a very long time. Until we needed to for this community. Reddit is secure, it'll never get shut down, and it has a wonderful posting way to get your images on the wall, and some nice ways for me to pin stuff at the top. Currently the villain challenge is due on the 30th of April. If I see that you guys need a little bit more time, I will extend that for you, but currently it's due on the 30th. Be sure to join it as soon as possible and get your work done. Please remember, for those who join it, please remember it's not just a close-up shot of a badly framed composition. It's a vertical or horizontal canvas. It's a portrait book cover type, or standing book cover characters so that we can see all of the character, or a landscape, environment, cinematic scene of some kind. We don't have to see every component of the character, but we have to see enough that the image is displayed properly. Excuse me. And we have a lot of planning to do. So thumbnails, environment thumbnails, if you're doing an environment. Well, you will be doing an environment for both vertical and horizontal canvas. Blueprinting of any kind, meaning the kind of turnarounds that you'll need to sort out for the costume, what you need to show, what would be the best part of the costume to show off for your chosen final frame. Silhouette studies for the gesture studies, portrait studies, expression studies, whatever you need, fabric studies, a mood board for all the references you're building. These challenges are designed to keep you, to train you. These designs are set up so that you have something in your portfolio. This isn't just for fun, or this isn't, I mean, it's for fun a lot, but it carries a lot of the weight of your future success as an illustrator. And I've designed these designs so that they put you in a workplace setting. So if you don't have any commissions at the moment, but you still want the practice, if you've done studies all for a long time and you're ready to move into bigger illustrations, these are the kinds of challenge. This is why I host these challenges, so that we have those, exposure mileage things available to you. I think that's it for announcements. Portrait Studio will be on sale at the end of May or start of June. So make sure that you guys are holding off if you can wait. It'll be on sale for almost 50% off. Please spread the word as well. Any Portrait Studio sale helps support us and supports my channel, and it helps us support improving Portrait Studio. It's just a two-man team, one-man team really. And Abu's doing a lot of that work, and all of the resources that we invest into Portrait Studio we pay for, and we're working on it constantly. So please make sure that you are, and there's a lot of upkeep as well, especially with the server. So if you want to support that way and spread the word about its usefulness, it's a very, very useful tool if you've never used it. There are a lot of videos that I've posted about it, but if you go to the store page and click on Portrait Studio, you can scroll down and find a lot of videos that describe what it's about. This is a sale announcement, but I kept it up from last year because it's got a lot of cool info about what Portrait Studio does. And that's it for announcements. Let's get started on the paint over today. Just waiting for Photoshop to load. Oh wow, the members went way up today for the stream. Welcome everybody. Okay, so there haven't been many posts, and one thing I want to get out there is, let's make a quick little vote right now while everybody's here. What is something you guys really want to study? So I've heard a lot about figures, we've covered fabric studies, we've covered texture studies. What's something you guys want to study together and do the homework for it, so Thursday we can focus on that? What's something you guys want to do? Alright, so let's get that out there and voted on. I'll start the paint over in a second. But I looked at the Reddit page, and a lot of you, apart from 14-day challengers, a lot of you are just a little bit lost of what your studies are supposed to be about. And if you're currently doing a villain challenge and you're working on it, I don't imagine you guys are working every single day on it from now till the 30th. I mean, if you are, then use that time. But if you have time in between for a quick study to hand in as homework for Thursday for public hour, throw your little suggestion here. Let's see what we get as the average. So mods, Titan and Abu, let me know what you guys find as the most requested, and then we will talk about that at the end of class. And if you're on YouTube right now and you want to comment, please do. What is something you want to do in class together? Is it to do with portraits? Is it a specific feature? What's something that you want to see me explain that you've heard explained before, but you're curious about how, like, my take on it? And we will, I promise you, we'll do a class just for that. So hands, ambient occlusion. Hands is a good one. Let's study the edge, blocking, gesture anatomy, composition, posing, facial expression, anything really, gestures, anatomy, or even clothes. Alright, well, my mods will take a look at those suggestions now. I have to get started. So one thing that we pick up from references, one really important thing to do, is a lot of the general universal genetics of what it is to be a human. So eyes, nose, mouth, symmetry, sinus function, blinking in the eyes, amount of lubrication and hydration needed for a portrait that you have to represent, the mouth and the teeth, and all of that stuff every human has. So there are the things that every human has, and there are the things that make every single person different. What you do when you use a reference is you pick up on the likeness. Likeness is what makes every individual face different from the one after it. The universal genetic is what you're studying when you're studying without reference. So let's get that distinction written down. Working without reference is studying universal genetics or universal biology or the universal genetic code of a human face. Write that down. And then when you study a portrait, not only are you picking up on that universal genetic code that combines all faces together, everyone has ears, eyes, nose, mouth, etc. You are studying the specific thing that makes that person that specific feature, characteristic, trope, whatnot. All right, so when I'm looking at pieces like these and I'm seeing major problems in the painting, disproportionate nostril. So what's that about? Why would one nostril be completely open and another just whatever? This is something you allowed to happen. Why? If you've come to the point where you're working on detail around the nose, if you've added in balance light brushstroke by that time, you should have already crossed off your list assemble symmetry. What allowed you, or what gave permission for this kind of asymmetry this late in the rendering process? Yeah, it's pretty early in the bigger picture, but it's pretty late in general. It's not, you can tell it's a face. By this time, we should have already established symmetry, and you've established symmetry everywhere else, and the nose is relatively simple to keep symmetrical. So these kinds of little flops in discipline need to be fixed. They piss me off if it's my student and I've been working with them for a while and I see them so nonchalantly hand in homework with asymmetry. I call it out and I say, this is bad courtesy. This is like discourteous homework presentation. This is just the messy homework. This is something that I know is not due to your lack of thinking or lack of understanding of physics. This is just laziness. So I'm going to call you out on this. This is damn lazy, okay? I don't like seeing that. A big component of universal human genetics, the universal human biological familiar thing that is the face, is that both halves are the same. And if you're going to go and start arguing about how, yeah, I've seen nostrils, one bigger than the other, those are specifics that we don't study in our portfolios, that Riot doesn't hire us for when we're designing. I mean, if we tried to pull that shit and give them a character that was asymmetrical with no sound reason for them to be asymmetrical, meaning maybe if they were a Frankenstein character, if they were monstrous of some kind, or zombie, if they were just a normal-ass human, we don't need to give them that specific, unusual distinction. So we're learning the universal trope of beauty. So that's what you're learning right now. That's what you're trying to figure out in your portfolio. So you can offer it and request money for it. That skill. So this is bad. So this is the kind of stuff you would be doing and figuring out when you are without reference, when you're studying without reference. And if you were my student in private tutoring, I wouldn't allow you to work with reference for a very long time, because I'd want you to know a nose without looking at a nose. I want you to learn what a nose does based off a list of things, that these are given things. They are absolutely given. They are universal. They are repeated. Everyone has two nostrils. And that's what your characters have to have, and you have to study that. Not everyone has super long lashes. These are specifics. Not everyone has an eyebrow arc. Sometimes eyebrows are flat, sometimes they're thick, sometimes there's no eyebrows. Not everyone has an almond shape. Not everyone's outer corner is high or low. Not everyone's lips are this thickness. Not everyone has this type of nose. So sometimes the nostrils are more visible, sometimes they're not visible at all. Not everyone has cheekbones or a pronounced jawline, etc., etc. So if your likeness is not present, if you don't have likeness, it could be for two things. You didn't understand the main reason for working with reference, which is to capture likeness and push yourself in that direction, or you just don't know how to capture likeness. And that's also problematic. All right? So what makes her her? Okay, I need help. Somebody please help me make it so that this crap here is, okay, no. I know how to do this one. This one is like that, right? Yeah. But the crop tool likes to crop proportionately, and I don't know how to not make it do that. And I'll show you in a second what that's doing. All right, why is it doing this? I specifically want one thing. Oh gosh, now I need to figure this out, and I don't have time to Google it. What am I doing wrong? All right, so I put it on. I want it to say on an original ratio, but there should be something here that says no, like unrestricted. Width times height times rev. Oh, okay. Figured it out. Could have just done that last time. Moving on. Okay, so her face was very long before. And one of the factors of her face is that it's got a very pronounced short triangle of beauty. If you don't know what a triangle of beauty is, you should go to my channel, look it up. The golden ratio, all distances are equal between all features, makes a perfect triangle, which is the cat eye, cat face. And then we start, after flattening the head, we start distancing the eyes from each other. Again, what is the reason we study references for? What is that main reason? What are we capturing when we're studying reference? The specific what? It's a G word. Right. And I'm just going to try to push this entire render with you guys today. The nose is just a bit more square. African faces tend to have a greater distance between the nose and the mouth, so I'm going to preserve that because I want to capture her cultural, like her race, her ethnicity. Yes, cats are cute. Close. We're studying universal genetics. That's the G word. Okay? When we're looking at a reference. When we're not looking at a reference, we're studying a very, we're studying specific genetics. I'm so sorry. When we're looking at a reference, we're studying general genetics or universal genetics. When we're working without reference, I'm so sorry. I'm a little lost today. Okay. So then I'm bringing that triangle back. So one thing about her face is that she's got very, very dark lower circles of her eyes. So be careful with that because we're currently studying the villain challenge, and I've talked about how a sickly face is used in design for a very specific reason. And even though she's not sick, even though it might be a racial thing, what's the term again? Ethnicity thing, and just some faces have dark circles, like brown people can have very dark circles. I have dark circles. It doesn't read like that in design. With characters, it reads as sickly. And unless your character is sickly, the rules are very rigid, and so you have to avoid using them. Alright, you should include the eyebrow. Unless you're trying to study the eyebrow bone or study that specifically, you should include the eyebrow. But before, after, and then there's just the placement of the eye as well. The size. What's happened is that the dark circles have completely taken over your ability to see the rest of the anatomy. The dark circles have kind of eclipsed over the size of the eyes. So if you want to, what I recommend you do, because you're also learning a trope at the same time, is just lessen these dark circles. They've really pushed the face into that trope, and you want to see her for that kind of face that she has underneath all of that makeup. And I'm not sure if it was added on. I'm not sure if it was just something she's born with, but I'm lessening that just a little bit because it's starting to kind of read as artificial shadow. Even the top one I took out, for the record. So where you are right now is you're in this blocking stage. So let's clean up your blocking just a little bit. The light is coming from many directions, from the sides, but mostly it's coming from the top right. Just look at her nose. And so this outer half of the far side of the face. And I don't know why your eyes are glowing. I don't know why you're using a pure white on the eyes. Nowhere in the eyes, in the reference, is the eye white. I don't know why you're doing that. Also, in your post, you said you're going to redo the eyes completely. Like I'm showing you right now, you really don't need to redo them completely. Okay, so after your blocking stage, what you do is blend. And if you haven't been using a smudge tool to blend, please start using that now. The value of a smudge tool is that it reorganizes your values manually. And you're not really using it's more exactly similar actually to the way we do things traditionally, in traditional art. So I'm blending away, starting with the areas that are the most blendable, which is always the cheeks. To zoom out with that, the cheeks are a big object. So you can zoom out to blend large objects. In fact, always zoom out when blending large objects. I don't think I've talked about that enough, because we can seriously see patterns, things that we haven't captured, fix mistakes much easier when we're zoomed out. So write that back to me. Always zoom out when blending large objects. What are some large objects on the face that we need to zoom out for? So these are the things that I'm touching on right now. And while I'm back here, I can see problems in where you placed your values. And I'm cleaning them up as I go. Whites of the eyes are still way too white. Alright, and then I'm just going to do one last little liquefy touch. And you see how clean everything is. When you zoom out and blend, you blend with this bit of assurance that you will not overblend, you will not underblend, and you will definitely have forms that read from a distance, because you are blending core shadows and their healthy positioning from a distance. Even myself, as your teacher, I can't make an accurate decision about whether or not an area needs more or less light without zooming out first. And if you aren't zooming out enough in your work, really start rethinking that. So now that I'm medium zoomed out, sort of, I'm not as zoomed out as before, I can start cleaning up around the eyebrow bone. So I will sculpt the eyebrow before the eyebrow bone, before I place in the eyebrow hair. Women's eyebrows are thin enough to reveal the brow bone. Sometimes men's eyebrows and brow bone are so low and eyebrows are so thick, it doesn't allow that extra little bit of light underneath. So this is a very female characteristic right here. And this is that extra bit of bounce light traveling from the other side of the light of the room. Okay, and then you've got this cast shadow, which is very blurred, very smudged. Piece of advice for anyone just picking up smudge tool. I have my own smudge brushes though, if you want to buy those off my store, but always remember the rule is keep strength very low. I'm at 8%, and it's still an overwhelming amount of strength. I'm blending the lower half of the nostril. So nice, healthy bed of value. She has freckles, which will get in the way of your ability to read value changes and tonal changes. But when you zoom out, I can't see freckles, can you? But I can see the tonal changes. So zooming out reveals those changes and helps you record them better in your rendition of the reference. No, it's not just that, zooming may work for you, but it doesn't work for me. No, that's not how eyes work. No. Zooming doesn't work for you, then you're not a human. Your eyes must be super strong, and the only way zooming works for you is if you zoom out to like the orbit of the Earth. Which makes zero sense. Alright, the darkness of the eyes. Still not dark enough. She's got very dark whites in the eyes. And then we've got dark spots. If you don't know what dark spots are, if you don't know what they are the 6 dark spots of the face, which are the 6 darkest points. Either they are, I just had a crazy deja vu, Jesus Christ. The 2 dark spots on either corner, like this. It's not going to be exactly her, but I am definitely going for likeness. The 2 cavities of the nose, which are the nostrils, and obviously the pigment of the eyebrow, of both eyebrows, which is, pigment is a dark spot. It can be black. You can have black on the face. And the pigment of the pupil and the iris, and the pigment of the assembly line kind of formation of the lashes. And these can be lines. A lash is like one of the only times you're allowed a line. Don't want to accidentally give her an expression. I'm being very careful here. And even if in your reference eyebrows are perfectly clean cut, almost sharpied, blend them in your piece. Being just very careful. Hair gets kind of sparse towards the end of an eyebrow. And yeah, you can edit your reference. Yes, you can adjust your reference so that it has components of it that are not distracting. I mean, we're grayscaling references, aren't we? So if that dark circle around her eyes distracted you, get rid of them, bring them in later so that you can capture the original reference. But there's no reason why you have to capture her dark spots. Not everybody has deep dark spots like that. It's definitely not an average. And we use it. We use it in cartooning. We use it in art to represent a character that has had little sleep, that is sick, that is evil, that is kind of, we just don't use it. There's just a very big reason why we don't, and I want to say it because, you know, educational benefit. And not that, you know, cancer patients are revolting or anything, and not that that it's funny in any way, but a villain basically looks like a chemotherapy patient. If you've ever seen the way they designed Satan in, or the way they cast Satan in Passion of the Christ, if you've ever seen the way they designed Voldemort, if you've ever seen the way that it just looks like a person without much life to them, very sickly, very pale, one singular color moving throughout, very little lashes. So you want to be aware of using that deep dark circle around the eyes, because that is something that we use as one of the major signatures for someone who is sickly, and that's what doctors actually look for when examining you. So just be careful using tools you're not familiar with. I have to flip the canvas and make some edits here. I don't mind much the outer because that's going to be cleaned up eventually. I think we did a lot of work with the liquify. She isn't wearing much lipstick, but the lips, because they're so far away and we're painting with visual peripheral, we're painting as if the character's being seen with the naked eye, not with a camera. Camera sees everything, but when was the last time you looked at someone's eyes and you saw in their periphery something this focused? No, if we're looking at, we can look only at one thing at a time, where a camera can see many things because it's exposed to all that light at the same time, recording the image. A human eye only sees one thing at a time, so because we're only painting for the eyes as if we're only seeing the eyes with high detail, the lips get lessened. Talked about this many times already, but again, there's lots of new people here, so these are just things that I repeat in case someone's forgotten them or missed them. And then we've got some tone changes that are within my current zoom, but even then I'm not that crazy zoomed up, am I? So I'm trying to capture some edges. Edges are one way to detail. The 3 ways to detail are shrinking your brush, which we're not using, contrast, which we are using, and edge work, which we are using. So I'm not looking at the comments if anyone has a question. I will take questions in a bit, and I'll also ask my mods what ended up being the winner for the topic for Thursday. So I asked everyone, what would you like to see for Thursday? If you haven't posted your suggestion, just post it right now, what you'd like to see as a topic for Critique Hour for Thursday. And I will assign on Reddit a quick little assignment for you guys to complete for Thursday. And now I'm just blending away at the eyebrows. So you see, you didn't have to start all over for this. Please, in fact, overblend the hairline. Don't do that to the hairline. Don't make it a wig. Okay, so yeah, you didn't have to start over. There was no need to start over. You just need to understand what you're doing with the eye. The eye is just composed of edge upon edge upon edge, and you just have to map that out with a diagram. Piece of advice for this specific student here, and anyone who wants to take it as well. Look in my video history for trace over diagram. Trace over diagram. Go through that video. Do a couple trace over diagrams for eyes. You need to start replacing what you have currently in your memory for what an eye does. If you start replacing things with an active functional diagram, you'll be preparing yourself for function. You'll be preparing yourself for drawing an eye that can blink, that can see, that can behave as an eye does. Alright, so I'm just throwing in a crease here. I'm going to do one eye for the lack of time. Actually, I'll try to do both eyes, but let me do one for now, just so one is complete. And this is that crease line. I'm just trying to accurately represent it. See that large amount of crease? She has a very strong eyeball shape. It kind of sticks out. So they're deep set. They're also protruding a little bit. And I'm using my heavy blocks, 100%. I'm already at 100. And I'm mapping out the shape of the eye. See how distracting that dark circle is? Because it's not really where that lower eyelid ends. So you're going to have to make these decisions. You're going to have to paint the dark circle after you paint the lower eyelid. She's got that inner corner, and that completes the circular shape of the eye. The eye shape isn't fully open yet because there was just so much mush there. There weren't any real edges. And where there are no edges, there is no information. She's got makeup on, and that's heightened the level of her eyes. The highlight level. Okay. And she's got a little bit of makeup on the inside of the waterline, which I won't do. Lots of space on the upper eyelid. And these are the measurements, so this is what you're going in and measuring. The space of the upper eyelid is bigger than the space in that same contour line to the eyebrow. This is more space. That's likeness. That's what we talk about when we talk about likeness. Just flipping the canvas, and then I'll blend. The brow bone is cylindrical, and it needs blending. Alright, no black spots just yet for the eyebrow and for the lash line, but no lashes just yet for the dark line of the lashes, but I will thicken the lash line. And when we bring in the circular shape of the eye, we bring it in with a stencil. Something perfectly circular on Photoshop, either the circular marquee tool or a hard round brush that we stipple with the mouse so we get a perfect circle without pen pressure or transfer. And that's because for the function of the eye to be believable, it has to be perfectly circular. And then I'm going to zoom out, see if I can capture any radiating values or dark values like this, and then move on to the eye. And look at how much edge work we have now. Look at how we've replaced mush with information. Because her skin tone is just generally darker, I had to climb a little high for that contrast. So when you zoom back out, you kind of pick up on these changes. And the side of the nose needs a nice splotch of white. And this is the exact stuff that I do when I do my pieces. And if you've ever seen my portraits, I do a lot of zooming out to the point where people in my stream are asking me to zoom in because you know, they can't see anything. And that's good. That's good that you're zooming out that much. That's not what they're trying, that's not what you're showing at them. That's not what you're working on. You're working on the stuff that ensures the success of the drawing, which is not the fun stuff that would entertain viewers, which is the detail. You want to take care of the stuff that's always neglected, that secures the success of your drawing, which are the greater geometries and tonal changes. It's kind of messy, but I don't mind. If everything is going to get blurred anyway, it's okay if that area is particularly messy. I'm kind of pressed for time, so I have to zoom out. And when you are liquefying larger pieces, zoom out as well. It's not going to be her exactly. She's got a bigger forehead. She's got bigger eyes and a smaller face. Definitely a smaller chin. Still wide, which has given her that elf-like shape. She has a smile, but it's hardly there. Lips need some detail before I can really show her off. Chin is still too strong. Okay, and then the position of this eyebrow is a little bit off. Where I place the eyebrow is actually a mistake. Because eyebrows further apart widen the face, and her face is pretty wide toward the top. So we're slowly getting there, and if it's you know, too excruciating for you, if this is a very slow process for you, it's because you haven't built up your threshold for patience yet for a painting. This should be relatively easy to deal with for you. And if you're not there yet to deal with this much rendering and back and forth caretaking, then work on single features from a reference. If it's too much information for you to process, work on single eye studies, then 2 eye studies, try to capture symmetry, and then triple eyes, I'm joking. And then, you know, we don't have 3 eyes. And then the nose, and then the mouth. It's terrible jokes, terrible. Darken. So yeah, if you haven't made your suggestion for this Thursday's homework, what you'd like for me to focus on, please make that suggestion now. So what is something you're dealing with that you'd love for me to take into a lesson? And you see how amazing blocking is. It really lets us just relax and capture these surface areas without much pressure, without much pain. And I'm ignoring the lashes right now. I'm ignoring everything but the single area I'm trying to capture. Even if it's not the right value, at least I've separated it as an edge. And the 100% opacity is required for that edge to be the result. If you're constantly layering, so I was at 50, I raised it to 100 because I just kept layering and layering, and that made a fuzzier edge. And when you're dealing with edges, sometimes you have a sharp, clean edge. Look at her eye sockets. They're very, very sharp. See that harsh line? And the makeup isn't helping. And it just suddenly ends. So we don't have that little extra splotch. And then again, see where that lower eyelid ends? And we can bring all that in later. So I would say this is middle, close to far toward the finish. I mean, if I worked on this for another hour, it would definitely be finished. So this was, all these brush strokes were made under your supervision. You watched this class, so you know why I made certain choices, and there's no reason why you can't make the same amount of choices in the same amount of time. Yeah, you may not be as familiar with my own brushes. Maybe you're a little bit less familiar with Photoshop, but I haven't used that much variety in tools. And the results have been good. So what I would do next, if I were to continue this painting, I would try to capture the mouth, the type of mouth she has. It's very specific. Little distance between the nose, and then she's got a very small, tiny septum, so I'm gonna try to capture that. It's got a shadow underneath it. A little bit of light under the eyebrow, just under, like that. Some brush strokes for the detail of the eyebrow. Any questions at all so far about the process? And at this point, before bringing in the pupils, I try to do as much anatomy as possible. I try to do the nostrils. I try to finish those up, just so I know what kind of edges I want to do and the kind of black that I need for the nostrils. Okay, so this nostril is tucked under the septum, and the septum is right in front. So any questions at all about this? Okay. So if you are asking a question, please @ Istebrak so that I could see it. Right, and then the next nostril, very simple. I find where it ties up. Make sure that edge is perfect. If you've never watched the nose tutorial, please go watch one of mine. I do stress a lot about the edge of the top part of the nostril. And then blend, blend, blend the lower part, because that's the face, technically, moving in and up into the nostril, under that little umbrella of the nostril. And everything seems dark around the nose, but the nose seems light, so I'm going to try to recreate that. Making the edge of the nose really sharp. And I see how zoomed in I am, and that's not for fine detail, that's just for edges, which should be your new definition of fine detail. And then I'm going to fix that tone problem. So with lots of, all I'm doing a lot of with your work, I'm just cleaning up your just random brush strokes. You have lots of random rogue hover brush strokes just hanging out, not doing much. So correct that. Stop throwing in brush strokes that you haven't planned. And to plan brush strokes is to know what geometry you're trying to represent in that brush stroke. Is it a cube? Is it a cylinder? And if you have no idea what I'm talking about when I say geometry, you need to completely stop with the photo reference work and start studying some basic form studies. It's a lot of work for me to cover, and class is almost done, but I will just do my best so that the before and after is a lot closer. The after is a lot closer to the reference. Okay. So the other problem with this piece is that you chose a very bad light source. You want to study one light source at a time. And what you did was you got one with multiple light sources. Luckily there is one prominent one, but some artists don't see it. So they end up making a mush depiction of the light environment instead of focused representation. And that's always a problem. Because when a light source is not defined, then what do you have, really? Light source is the reason why we're seeing anything, and that's not defined in your work. What do you have that is defined? Edges need light source. Gradients need light source. And that's why a lot of the components, a lot of the main carriers of the success of the painting were missing, and that's why you stayed in early stage too long. Alright, and then there's the opening of the eye, which is also a problem. And slowly but surely it's coming together. I don't think I'll have time to capture her exactly. She's got a lot of dark. Even though I took off a lot of it, she's got a lot of dark under. Like if you squint your eyes, it's just like all dark. From eyelid down to lash, and then from eyelid up into eyebrow. And I think that has a lot to do with her likeness. And do you see how far delayed, for how long the thing is delayed for? The pupils and the iris. Just look at for how long I've delayed this. And yours was there, right? Like, and you can't allow that. Wait a second, you didn't have a pupil and an iris. Yeah, my bad. The problem with your eyes was that they were too bright, right? And then some light here. Just copying that. All right. When dealing with multiple light sources, is it better to deal with each one separately than unify them later? Good. Yes, I agree. Primary to secondary, dealing with primary first. Do I have to use Photoshop to get results like this? Not really, as long as you have a good blocking brush, but blending is a problem outside of Photoshop because I smudge and not a lot of tools are similar to Photoshop smudge. Brush sets that promote blocking are the best to use for the entire like for everything. And you can create soft patterns for the hairline with a hard brush. The person was asking, how do you know which brush set is best for each part of the face? There's no one brush set for this or that. You should typically be using the same brush throughout. Anatomy and gesture seems to be the top of the list on both so far. Okay, we already did that before, so I do want to see what second place is. All right. How do we paint makeup without losing form? Well, don't choose a reference that has crazy makeup on. And sometimes makeup complements form, so we only really put eyeshadow where we would have a shadow naturally on the face, under the eye socket or under the eye. And then if we're doing a cat eye, that's different. That's face paint. But natural nudish makeup looking would be makeup that we use, that we put on the eye where we would have a shadow already. Eyelashes and eyeliner. We put light eyeshadow on the top of the eyelid, dark eyeshadow on the lower part of the lower eyelid, etc. Okay, so now I'm thickening that lash line. I'm considering some of the makeup involved. I'll do like one lash. Really, really thinly. Lower eyelid doesn't really have that much. Waterline. And then I'll use the elliptical marquee tool to get her eye. And then I'll just position it. She's got a bigger eye. She's got a bit of a squint going on. And voila. And the reason why I use a perfect circle is because that is what it is functionally. And then we have a couple more little dots to add of highlights. I'm just going to use my sketching brush on like a pure white here somewhere from the background. And just place in those little accents there. She might not be looking in the exact same direction, but I don't care about that at the moment. It's mostly the likeness that I'm trying to capture. And if you want to, we can Control Z back into the old reference and try to get that dark circle that she had. She had really dark circles. I'll show you guys in a second. And then of course, please blend at the radial shading of the lips. Cheeks don't really have that, because there's just so many light sources. It's such a bad reference. especially because of the dark circle she had. Maybe that was makeup. It was just some photographs are made to be interesting and not really good. So, in the eyes of a non-artist, this is a great photo. But when you realize how much of the core shadow they've destroyed, then you're like, well, so what do we have? What is left? Of what makes things visible and what makes them worth taking a photo of. And there's only really ever one sun. Alright, so there's a lot more work to do, but it's definitely a good start, and I really recommend you rework the way you're approaching your references. Block according to the light source's direction, block according to the underlying geometry and contours. Capture likeness, but there is universal genetic, like a universal thing to be human. There's a universalness to having human, genetic, universality to the genetics of a human. You have to capture those without reference for a while. So study a 14-day challenge face or something like that. And then now it's just details of eyelid folds would be coming up, eyebrow hair. Some areas are getting blurred or smudged. Other dark spots, the darkest point of the lower of the nostril. So that really super dark area. Just a lot of little pieces here and there. Gosh, there are so many light sources on her. It's unbelievable. Okay. Any questions at all? Some of that core shadow is completely gone. Any more questions before I do a before and after? So you see how I changed the size of the reference. I changed the size of the reproduction to be the same size as the reference. You guys should be doing that. If you're not doing that, you're not really seeing much. You're seeing, when you need to see zoom up of a certain area, you're only seeing the zoom out. So how are you getting the information you need per area? For only studying, large brush strokes, then yeah, zoom out and make your reference smaller. But if you're trying to exactly reproduce it, not with photorealism, but something close to it, then keep it the same size so that when you're zooming out, they're both at the same level no matter what you're doing. And skin, for it to read, a skin has to be blended. So please blend. And if you're not smudging, if you don't know where to start in making your own smudge brushes, you can get mine from my store. There are little patches here. Back and forth. I do not have time for the other eye, but I hope you get the idea. The idea. Oh my god. I'm so smart. Can you guys believe how smart I am? Okay. Can we photo bash for our villain challenge submissions? Nope. Absolutely not. Paint every component. If you need references, get the references. I never said no references. If you're asking me a question and you're not writing at Istebrak, I'm not going to see it. Okay. So right before I do this, before and after, I am just going to do one last little haze. And then of course I need to blur the edge of that marquee tool that I used for the eyeball. She's got a lot of glitter on her eyes, which I wouldn't really worry too much about showing, but if you had to show them, just copy the exact pattern. That squint is not there. Alright. What is gesture research? Just finding a reference for your gesture, combining different references together to make the chosen gesture of your character. What gesture does your character need in order to fulfill their role? Are they a warrior? Do they need a warrior gesture? What is their personality type? Are they a warrior but they're also proud? How do I represent that as a gesture? Before. Okay. After. Before. See how dark her circles are? After. I think she did have makeup on. Really never seen that before, but see how long your face? That was a long ass face. But you had your reference right there, so where did you get that measurement? How does one measure a portrait before painting? Well, one really good thing that helped us today is asking what kind of face she had. That made me start off with the right square. And then, obviously, I saw that she had a beautiful face, the triangle of beauty, so that made me throw a triangle in there. And after I found where the eye corners were, the nose in relation to the distance between each corner, the nose was kind of a little bit longer than that. So she's got kind of a long nose, but exactly perfect for her eyes. And then where the mouth was, a bit of an extensive distance. But this is all eyeballing. You want to measure, go ahead and measure right on top. Meaning, just get the exact length of each area. Copy paste that onto your version. This is called smart tracing. It's not like actually tracing everything. You're tracing around landmarks, the edge of something, the side of something, and then that's going to aid your eye so that in the future you don't have to do that anymore and you can eyeball. You can just eyeball as much as you can. Sorry, did I say that wrong? Oops. Before we good listen. I have just one question. Why were the whites of the eyes so incredibly white? Stop it. This is symbols. You had the reference right there telling you what value they were. But you put white because we call it white of the eye. And you're still thinking in symbols. Why? No more whites. Right, so good luck on finishing the rest. I'm sorry I didn't have time to finish both eyes. I wish I did. I'm running out of voice. Thank you everyone for joining today. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask on Reddit. Just at me. I'm not sure how that works, but just add me. If you haven't joined our Reddit, please join it. This is where I got this piece to critique today. It was on Reddit. That's where it was posted. So if you want your work critiqued, if you did a study and you're like, damn it, I'm stuck, maybe I'll look at it in the next critique hour. For this Thursday, our critiques will be about organic forms. So I'm just looking through these suggestions. Organic forms and folds. Let's just make it organic forms and folds. So for homework for Thursday, I want to see what you guys are doing for organic forms, which are just blobs. Spherical blobs, we haven't done enough of those, and folds, so fabric folds. We did do one for fabric folds recently, but it's just great to revisit them. So do Thursday, please, and I'll make a post. Do Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, our studies for organic folds and forms. The Villain Challenge is due on the 30th. Portrait Studios on sale at the start of June. To purchase any of my brushes used today, just go to the store. And that's it. If you want to be a patron, I'd really appreciate it if everyone here joined as a patron. It really would secure the channel, secure everything that I use to run this entire community. So if you do want a way to give back, if you want a way to support and keep the channel independent, then you can support me through Patreon directly. Thank you everyone for joining today. I'll see you guys on Thursday the 11th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Bye everyone.